this game was truly amazing, and with the release of Silent Hill F only being a couple of weeks ago, comparing Silent Hill F to this is night and day difference. I didn't dislike Silent Hill F. I just felt like it wasn't as special as I hoped it was going to be. I felt like it was quite underwhelming. The gameplay was a little bit clunky. I wasn't the biggest fan of the story. And even though this game, of course, is not new, and the remaster isn't even new, this was significantly better. So it's time to rate it. The graphics were, I'm going to give it a beautiful, because even though they are dated, and the remaster obviously only does so much, I can appreciate the graphics, of course. You can't directly compare this to something like Elden Ring, or Ghost of Tsushima, or a brand spanking new game. But at the same time, I thought for what it was beautiful, and combined with the aesthetic, it was fantastic. This felt like the perfect nostalgic survival horror experience. It was so cool seeing, of course, the Japanese structures and the different aesthetics of each of the characters. You have the very cool and unique ghost designs. I thought that really everything was perfectly done for their vision. These games are not supposed to be the most difficult survival horror-esque experiences ever. It's very much so about the aesthetic and becoming very immersed, and they did it really freaking well. The music was also fantastic. It had such a creepy, atmospheric soundtrack. There were no times where I felt that the music was off. It was perfectly balanced between being very creepy when you're going down the halls, and then when you're jump scared, the music, drastically shifts to the boss fights, which were really cool. And that final track was so amazing. So I'm going fantastic. The difficulty was definitely easy. We played it on normal. When I replay this game, I'm definitely going to be playing it on hard. I do think that if you're not quite used to the fatal frame mechanics, it might be a little bit jarring, but at the same time, it's pretty easy to learn, I think, and I wouldn't say that it's hard to master. I'm just going to go average in terms of fatal frame. I definitely think that this is one of the easier fatal frames that I have played, but at the same time, I still felt like the boss fights and the gauntlets or waves definitely packed a little bit of a punch. But I'm gonna go average. There's definitely harder games out there. There's definitely easier games out there. I would play it at a higher difficulty though, for sure, if you're used to survival horror titles. The boss fights were also very cool. I think that they were not extremely tough. They were good enough. I think that they could have been better. Some of the mechanics potentially could have been a little bit different. They all felt very similar, but then again, a lot of the mobs in this game felt quite similar, and that's one of the things that I think is good about it being a shorter playtime, is that if you had to do this for 30 hours, yeah, you would think that it's boring and that it's way too repetitive, but we finished it pretty quickly. It wasn't an extremely long game, so I'm gonna go pack a punch. Again, I don't quite think it was super easy. I don't think that they were amazing or extremely well designed just because they were similar. But they were still good. We didn't encounter any bugs, which is really good. I didn't have anything really to note. And the story was really, really cool. I liked the difference between the characters, which also gameplay ties into, but basically the Rugetsu Kagura is a festival that is held every, I believe it's 10 years on Rugetsu Isle. There are these girls that are picked, and the reason why it becomes important is because a decade ago, 5 girls went missing, they were kidnapped. You have to kind of unravel their story, and the main characters you play as, they go back to the Isle. They go back, they try to figure it out, and I thought that it was really cool as you're going through the game. It's not apparent at first exactly who is alive and who is dead, and you have to figure out like the story and what happened and how your family is tied to it. But yeah, 10 years later, 2 of the 5 girls go back, and I just thought that each of the characters, obviously the girls are very nervous and scared. You have Choshiro, who is definitely more masculine. He's not as terrified, running around screaming and being horrified by what's going on. But I thought that they were all quite different. The way that they react obviously depends on which character you're playing as and which like family tie is in the game, and I thought it was really well executed. I thoroughly enjoyed it. This is a standalone. I'm going to play this on a higher difficulty to see what the other ending is, but I loved how the story wrapped up, and yeah, I think that you kind of knew from the beginning you were going to have to go through and get the shards of the mask, and you were obviously going to either have and use the mask of the lunar eclipse, or you were going to destroy it, or something of that effect, which you obviously do, and I thought that it was really well executed. So I'm gonna go, I think it would be between good and fantastic. I think that it would be great, but I definitely lean more towards fantastic, so that's what I'm going to go with. The gameplay was also really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Right, when you're going into Fatal Frame, you're expecting the different camera and lens, flashlights. You're not expecting to use guns and be overpowered. The difference in the different film types is really good. I thought that was, of course, well executed, and I'm gonna go fun. I wouldn't quite say it was challenging, but I was also playing it on normal. Since it was my first time playing this one, I didn't want to go too high of a difficulty. Quality of life was okay. I do wish that the game had a few small changes. I wish that you were able to blow up the map and look at the overall picture. Sure, you could go throughout the different map slices, we'll call them for argument's sake, and you could see the certain floors, but I wish that you could see the overall map to kind of plan out your route. I thought that that was definitely missing a little bit. I wish the character moved a little bit faster. I know in other Fatal Frame games you can actually run. In this title, none of the characters can sprint particularly well. So I'm gonna go missing a lot of features, though I think that for me it was just a few core ones. The game time length was obviously pretty short. We finished it in about, I think the in-game time when you're not looking at menus and you're not in a menu was about like 10-ish hours, maybe a tiny bit more. So it was short, though I think that it was good for what it was. This is a game that they probably want you to replay. You get the different costumes. There's enough of a reason to do so. And I also think that when you know the end of the story and you know the twists, like who's really alive, who's really dead, I think that replaying it would actually be pretty beneficial so that you have the overall picture almost before you go into it. So I would replay this at least one more time. And this is a title that obviously had come out many years ago, but it was remastered in 2023. It is a title that does go on sale pretty often, and I would recommend getting it on sale. The full price is $50, which I do think is quite steep for a remaster. Yes, there is a $70 edition that comes with a ton of different outfits. I think that the base version should have come with those outfits. I don't really think that they should have been selling them for $20 more, but this is the direction they decided to go in. I don't think that it's worth that price. I think that this is a good $20 to $30 game. I highly recommend playing it at some point though, but wait for sale. It's definitely worth trying out. And replayability, I would play it 2 times, maybe 3 times, and playing it another time in several years. It was a really good experience, and I had a lot of fun with it. And playing this practically back-to-back with Silent Hill F, it just goes to show what the modern continuations of these franchises, what's wrong with them? Silent Hill F was not terrible, but it also wasn't great. It was lacking a lot, in my opinion. The atmosphere, the story was okay. Again, there are multiple endings. I still think that it was just missing a lot. And comparing it directly to this, I had way more fun playing this. And this is, in my opinion, truly what the industry needs to go back to making high quality, really entertaining experiences that keep you immersed, that give you quite a bit of content, and keep you wondering if there's going to be another twist or turn, what else is going to happen in the game, and piecing together the sort of overall puzzle. And speaking of which, I thought the puzzles in this game were good. Some of them were a little bit too simple. We were playing on normal difficulty. On hard difficulty, I've been told that they hold your hand a little bit less. They make them a little bit more difficult, which could be cool. But I really enjoyed this experience. I'm really glad that I played it. And I think that this game deserves a pretty good score. I think that with the lack of a few different quality of life features, them withholding some of the content in the remastered version for the higher tiers, quite unfair. And with the shorter length per playthrough, I think I feel comfortable at a 7.5. It was really good though. Highly recommend it. I had a blast with it, and I can't wait to play it again. So, yeah. I think that if I was playing this at release, then yeah, I would have given it an 8. And I mean the original launch, not the remastered launch. I think I probably, yeah, would have given it an 8. But I think that there are games that are definitely a little bit stronger narratively and with quality of life. The graphics still seeming a bit outdated. It's not a modern game by any stretch of the means, but it was still really good, and I'm really glad that I played it.